Hello everyone and welcome to Total Quilter Monthly for September 2019. My name is Mark Garretts and I'm a National Floriani educator, and in this series of videos we have been looking sometimes at things that are only available in Total Quilter. Last month we did part 2, and this month we're going to continue on with part 3 of things that are only available in Total Quilter. So let's get into it. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and open up Total Quilter, and I've got my grid set to inches, and I've got show grid on, snap to grid. Let's take a look at our grid settings here. I've got a horizontal spacing of 1/4 inch for both horizontal and vertical. I've got the grid major every 8 lines, which means every 2 inches, and then as you can see here, I've got snap to grid turned on. Really doesn't matter so much for this demonstration if you're going to follow along, but this is where my grid settings are. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Down here for my thread chart, I'm using a simple thread chart. I'm using Floriani cotton. To select that, click this icon right here, your thread chart selector. You can see I've got Floriani cotton selected. I've done this because Floriani cotton has just a few colors in it down here, and it makes it easier for me to find colors if I need to. And I'm not certainly suggesting that you stitch anything out with this thread, but you can, of course, but I'm just using it for convenience. So in this video today, we are going to be going over fills, the different types of fills that are available only in Total Quilter and nowhere else within the Floriani universe of programs. So what we are going to do first is we need something to fill in. We can't fill anything in to a blank area, and these are my fill icons down here. You can see in the lower left down here that they're all grayed out because I don't have a shape on the screen to fill in. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's put in a shape. I'm going to come up here to my rectangle tool, and I've already got rectangle selected. If you don't, you can click the drop down and click on rectangle just like that. And then what I'm going to do is click and drag a square. So I'm going to make a 8 by 8 square, and I'm going to start up here at -4 and go down here to +4, or actually -4 down here on the vertical. So I'm going to start right here and drag a square down, and you can see that that's snapping to those points because I've got snap to grid turned on. So now I've got a perfect 8 by 8 inch square. There are lots of other ways to get an 8 by 8 inch square, but this is what we're going to do today. And this is a piece of artwork, and if you've been following along at all, you know that artwork doesn't stitch, but we usually start by drawing a piece of artwork and then using our fills to fill in the artwork with stitches. So I'm going to leave this fill blank. It's in blue. I'm going to change it to red here so it'll be a little bit easier to see. And what I'm going to do now is start putting in the fills. Now we have, like I said, 6 different fills down here. The first one is a texture fill, and that one, if I click it, will give you all kinds of textures that you can fill into this square and have them stitch out in that pattern. But you know what? I'm not going to put these texture patterns in today because these texture patterns are some of the same texture patterns that you would find in Floriani Total Control as motif fills. So these are some of them, not all of them, but some of the more quilty ones in FTCU we brought over into Total Quilter here, and the numbers are actually the same. So we're not going to use those. I'm going to close that because, as I said earlier, we're focusing on features that are only in Total Quilter. The next one is stippling, and so I could click that and open up its dialog. But, you know, the dialog for this, it's actually filling it. There's no dialog. I apologize for that. Let me undo that. Undo's your friend, remember, and it's up here. So I'm going to undo that. So stippling, I'm going to reselect my square. Stippling is in FTCU as well, and it's pretty much the same as the stippling here. So again, we're not going to focus on that. But the next 4 fills are ones that are only available in Total Quilter. And the third fill down here is called Advanced Stippling. And you know this stippling is like a meander style stipple. These stipples are pattern stippling. They are very similar in the way they work to the texture fills or the motif fills in FTCU, but the shapes are unique to Total Quilter. These patterns are only in Total Quilter, and they're called Advanced Stippling because I guess they're more stipply than textures. I don't know why they called them that, but let's take a look at a few here just to see what they do. Let's look at Stipple 06. I'm going to click that, and it's going to bring that pattern in and fill it in as stitches. If I click off it, you'll see that I have stitches here. And just like the texture fills and other fills, you can control what's going on over here in the properties box. So the main thing you might want to do is change the pattern size. You might want to make this bigger or smaller. Now, one of the things that is important to realize is the pattern size is independent of the stitch length. So you can have as big a pattern as you want, but keep your stitches at 2.5 millimeters or whatever you set it to. So I'm going to make the pattern bigger. Let's double it. Let's go to 30. I'm typing in 30 in the box and clicking apply. And now we've got a much bigger pattern. So this might be more of a quilting pattern. You might even want to make it bigger. The other one might be more of a faux piecing pattern, which we've covered faux piecing a lot in this video series. So we're not going to go over that again. But let me go back to the original size. I'm going to go do that by typing or clicking undo rather. And I'm going to show you the next thing you can do with this, because you can do a mixed pattern. So if you click mixed patterns, the second pattern here will alternate with this one. Now, I've never done it with a line. Let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. It just connects the stipples with a line. And now you can kind of see what the pattern really looks like. But let's do something more interesting. Let's put an actual pattern in there. I don't know. Let's do this one, 24. Let's see what that looks like. And we'll click apply. Okay. All right. So that one looks kind of interesting. So you can keep playing with this. But these advanced stippling patterns, again, these are only available in Total Quilter. Now I'm going to select that and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. Now it's reverted back to selecting my outline again. So I want to show you the next fill. Oops, the next fill is grayed out. Echo Quilting is grayed out. We can't use it right now, so we'll come back to that. Let's go to the next one, Contour Fills. So if I click Contour Fill, what this is going to do is take the outside shape and contour stitches all the way around into the center. And that's really tight. You might want to do this for a special effect in a piece of a block or the block, but for quilters this is kind of not cool. So I'm going to change the density over here in my properties box. I realize I just pointed to it with my finger and you can't see it. It's over here in the density box. I'm going to change that density. Now 2 is really tight. So I'm going to make it really big. Let's go to like a 20. Let's multiply it by 10. We'll go to 20 and see what that looks like. So there we go. That's more of a quilting pattern, but if you wanted any other size, you could click any size you want. But again, what it does is it takes the outside shape and echoes it down into the center. So if we had a triangle, we'd have triangle patterns. If we had a flower, we'd have flower patterns going down into the center. So you get the idea. All right, so let's delete that one. I'm going to again press the delete key on my keyboard. Let's reselect it, press delete on my keyboard. And the next one I want to show you is also unique to Total Quilter, and this is a kind of fun one. This is Shape Echo. When I click it, I get a selection of shapes to echo from the center of the pattern all the way out to the edge. So I can pick anything I want. Let's pick this flower, right? And it's going to echo all the way out to the center in the shape of that flower. Now again, you might like the way this looks. It's probably a little tight for quilters, so again, let's change the density. I'm thinking a density of 40 might look good here, so I'm going to put in a 40 and click apply. And yeah, now we have a flower pattern that echoes out from the center. Now I've done this in a 8x8, and don't forget that you can do this in any size, but you can do it in any outside shape. Doesn't have to be a square, it could be a circle, could be a triangle, any piece of a quilt block that you want to apply this shape echo to is pretty cool. Now I want to show you something else that you can do with shape echo, and that is you can change the center of where this fill starts, and you do that by coming over here and clicking the shape icon, and now there's a blue dot that's appeared over here, and I can move that blue dot anywhere I like, and I can move it anywhere I want in this pattern. So let's move it right here, and when I come off and I right click on my mouse, now I've changed the center of the pattern to over here. So you can get all kinds of cool effects by, say, putting it in the corner and right clicking, and you can get all kinds of interesting effects from these shapes that at this point doesn't even look like a flower. Kind of looks even like a little bit of a heart going out there. So by playing with the center point, you can get all kinds of interesting and unusual shapes with Shape Echo. I like Shape Echo. It's a really, really fun tool to play with. But I'm going to select it and I'm going to delete it. And we're going to go on to the last thing, which is echo quilting. Now what echo quilting does is echo quilting takes a shape like this that has a hole in it, and it echoes around that hole out to the outside of the shape. So we need to put a hole in here. There's lots of different ways to do it, but the most common way we do it is to take an inner shape and an outer shape and then combine them with this combine icon right here. And if the inner shape is completely inside the outer shape, it punches a hole in the shape of the inner shape in the outer shape, just like a cookie cutter. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to come up here to my shape library, and I'm going to grab a shape, and I'm going to use, let's use this butterfly. Actually, you know what? I don't want to use that butterfly. I'm going to delete that. I want to use a flower because I did that for the picture at the end. So I'm going to use a flower. So I'm going to come down here to flower. I'm going to use flower 02. Now flower 02 is filled in, and it doesn't really matter if it's filled in or not, but let me turn off the fill and click apply. And I'm going to select all items, which selects my outer shape and my inner shape. And now you can see my combine icon is lit up because I've now got two things selected, so it can combine them. And when I combine them, what's going to happen is you can see over here I've got an outer shape, one shape. There's only one thing here now. It's a square with a hole cut in the middle, just like a cookie cutter in the shape of this flower. So now if I select that, you can see that my shape echo, or my echo quilting icon is lit up. All right. Now to show you what this actually looks like, I'm going to temporarily fill this shape. So I'm going to click apply, and you can see this is what the filled shape looks like. There's a hole in the center in the shape of the flower. So I'm going to turn off the fill and click apply. And what we're going to do now is echo quilt this. So I'm going to come down here to echo quilting and click it, and it's going to think for a little bit, and it's going to fill in the outside of this with the echo in the shape of the flower. And again, I can come over here and change my density. Let's double it to 16 and see what that looks like. We'll go apply. Okay, so now I've got kind of a more spaced out echo, and you can keep changing that to anywhere you like. But I want to show you one other thing that's unique to Total Quilter in the way the conversion icon works. So in FTCU, these icons convert from one shape to another. But in Total Quilter, if you start out with artwork, which is what we did, here's our artwork, it doesn't actually convert it. It makes a copy of it and then converts that. So my stitches over here are separate from my artwork, and my artwork remains behind. So that's kind of cool because we can do some interesting things with it. So for example, if I select my artwork, again, what I've got here right now is a combined piece, an outside with an inside cut. But I can reverse the combination by doing break apart. This is the opposite of combine. Now, you don't have to worry that you will lose your stitches because they've already been created. I could even delete this artwork. It wouldn't affect these stitches. But watch what happens. I'm going to break it apart. I'm going to click the plus icon next to my artwork, and now I've got two pieces here. I've got this piece and I've got this piece. So I can independently do something with it. So for example, I can take this piece of artwork and I can apply a fill to it. Let's put a advanced stippling fill in it. Let's use number 97. That's the one I used in my picture. So let's do that. And I'm going to change the size of it. I'm going to change my pattern size here to pattern size 6. And I'm going to click apply. And that's smaller now. So I've got two fills here. And let's change the color of it. Let's change that to green. Okay. So now I've got a fill to fill in my flower shape, and I've got my echo quilting around it. And let's make this a little more defined. Let's put a satin stitch around the edge of this flower. Again, my artwork is still here, so I can reselect that artwork again, and I can apply something different to it. So in this case, I'm going to apply a satin stitch to the border, and this special kind of satin stitch defined by a center line is called a steel stitch, and it's right here. I'm going to click that, and my steel stitch is going to go around it in red. And so that might be a kind of cool quilt block all unto its own. So I want to show you one more thing you can do. I'm going to select this fill, and I did it by clicking on it over here in my sequence view. I click my shape icon now. I don't know how well you can see this, but I've got a black dot here and a black dot here connected by a black line. This is my angle line, so I can change the angle of this fill. So let me change the angle so that it goes across these petals here. And when I right click, it'll lock that in. And now I've got that look, which is completely different. If you don't like that, I'm not certain that I'm fond of that. You've always got undo. So that concludes our lesson for this month. Hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank everybody for watching and invite you to come back next month for Total Quilter Monthly.